So I know I had said that we're looking here at new ways of fighting wars. So what we had just mentioned previously was this idea of trenches, that in order to combat artillery fire, which had killed more than anyone else in World War One, any other weapon in World War One, trenches were kind of the solution to that problem. So what happens? New forms of warfare are introduced to combat the trench. Now you can see here the trench right here. You can see soldiers in the trenches. Here's a soldier in a trench. Well, we look for ways to do that. Now, if I can't charge a trench and get right into it, I have to find a way to get to those enemies. Why not poison gas? I'll lob some shells up over the trenches. I know I can't hit them in the trench necessarily. I'll explode that poison gas and it'll seep into me, and it will kill people within those trenches. You can see here a man who was exposed to poison gas. You can see the burns on his face, the burns on his wrists and his hands where he wasn't covered. Well, how do you combat poison gas, right? We have to find new ways to do that. Well, let's come up with a new invention. Let's try gas masks. You're going to see tomorrow gas masks for dogs, gas masks for horses, gas masks for people, as an attempt to technologically combat gas. Okay, so gas doesn't work. All right, so artillery's not killing as much as it used to. Let's find out another way to do this. Let's try, I don't know, aerial combat. At first used for reconnaissance, later used for bombing. Bomb the trenches from above, much more accurate perhaps than you could get with poison gas. Well, that's not enough planes. It's an incredibly short life expectancy of only 2 weeks if you're a pilot, so we have to come up with another way of handling this kind of trench warfare. Why not the armored tank, where we can cross no man's land and go over the mines and not get shot with the machine guns and crush the barbed wire and the kinds of fighting here. You kind of see what I'm saying? It's almost like a anything you can do, I can do better, where you say, all right, artillery is killing you like never before. Let's dig some trenches. All right, I'll keep dropping artillery on you, but I'm also going to drop poison gas on you. Yeah? Well, I got my gas mask. All right, well then have some of these aerial bombardments and aerial dogfighting. Oh, death toll is too high? Let's get some armored tanks here. Every time someone comes up with something, there's a way to counter that. An example here in America, of course, would be that we have ships traveling the ocean now, surface vessels traveling the ocean, and we're delivering our troops to World War One Europe. And what's happening? First time ever, we see large-scale submarine warfare. Right? Americans are arriving with a ton of troops from America into Europe. Submarine warfare is going to sink those. Well, America's going to say, I'm going to implement a convoy system so that we can attack those submarines, protect our ships, get our men there safely to fight. Not a single ship was lost on the way to Europe in terms of troop ships, thanks to that convoy system. But I think you get that idea of everything you can do, I can do better when it comes to war, leading this essential question of nations believing they can win right there kind of in the upper right-hand corner to turn out not to be true. In fact, the death tolls are unbelievable. At the bottom here, you see Men in Action, United States. This is 1968. This is the deadliest year in Vietnam in America. 213,000 casualties in 1968. That's 40%. So 4 out of every 10 people in 1968 that were involved in American combat operations were wounded. In World War One, 42 million, almost 43 million Allied troops were involved. Central Powers, 25 million, almost 25.5 million troops involved. Look at the sheer number of casualties. In some cases, in the tens of millions. And yet, half of that population was lost. Americans hated Vietnam for the incredible number of casualties. That was 1 year. This is in 4 years. The amount of death that we're talking about here is catastrophic, and the impact that it's going to have on the nations that are fighting this war is also catastrophic. You don't suffer 12 million or 10 million casualties, or 22 million casualties or 16 million casualties without having an impact on your willingness to fight the war.